Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the new Prime Video action thriller G20, which stars Viola Davis, Anthony Anderson, and Anthony Starr. And in this film, U.S. President Danielle Sutton must defend her family, fellow leaders in the world when the G20 summit in Cape Town, South Africa is taken over by terrorists. This is a film that I was very interested in when I first saw the trailer. I was like, okay, we we're getting Viola Davis in a die-hard action movie. All right, color me intrigued. Let me see what this what we have in store for this gem of a movie. I mean, come on. This is an Academy Award winning actress, a world renowned thespian in her right. I mean, going back to The Help and on TV, How to Get Away with Murder, Fences, which she won an Academy Award for, and so many other projects. The Suicide Squad, where she plays Amanda Waller. Uh, One thing about Viola Davis is she isn't scared. She don't care. She's gonna dive into any type of role, any type of genre, and shine. Even The Woman King, which was one of my favorite films to come out a couple of years ago. She shines in everything that she does. And one thing about Viola Davis, she doesn't mail in performances. And the one worry I had going into G20, being as though this is a streaming movie, um, will she be mailing this in? Will this be a paycheck movie for her? And no, no, it wasn't. That was the one hang up I had going into this, the one fear that I had going into this movie. And I mean, it's Viola Davis. When has she mailed in a performance? Even in take the two Suicide Squad movies, for instance. Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayers, and The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. Two completely different movies, different tones, but she plays the same character in both. And she manages to fit in both of those films perfectly, perfectly fitting the tone of each film. And so she is just she's that girl. She's that girl. In this film, she plays the president. And all I could think about was, boy, I know when they were filming this, or probably around the time they were putting this film together, the people probably were thinking around this time or the time they were going to release this film that the United States would have a woman president, a black woman president, but you know, the chips didn't fall in our favor there. But it is what it is. But let me tell you something. Danielle Sutton, the character that Viola Davis plays here, if she was running, it wouldn't be a problem for me. Man, she is a beast in this movie. Viola Davis is really nothing I can say that you don't already know about her. I don't care what you've seen her in. You know that she's great. And she's great here. Going back to what I was saying about mailing in a performance or just taking a paycheck, she didn't do this here. And she could have easily did it, because this is in its at its core, when you strip away the fat from that meat, this is a cheesy 90s style action movie. But she added weight to it. She added gravitas to the role and to the film. And would this have worked as well with another actress in that role? I don't believe it would have. Because there's a lot of flaws in this movie. There are some flaws in this movie, but you know you kind of look past it because it's Viola Davis. And she just takes it by the horns and just ride that bull, like it's a little pet of hers. I loved her in this film. The film as I said, yes, it's cheesy. There's a lot of leap in logic here. How easily the terrorists take over this summit where you had 20 world leaders. It wasn't like they were taking over my house. You could probably do that with a slingshot and some bubble gum. But we're talking about the 20 biggest world leaders in the world. And these terrorists just slipped right in and took over this summit like it wasn't nothing. Granted, they kind of explained it away, these guys checked all the credentials and they were vetted, and they it was an inside job and all this other good stuff. Yeah, I get all that, but it's still like, come on. All of the intelligence in this room, and nobody saw this coming. that somebody was gonna try something on a funny style. But yeah, that little tidbit kind of threw me off. Uh the supporting cast here, there are some real gems of a supporting cast. Anthony Anderson as the husband, as Viola Davis' husband. I thought that would have been a distraction for me. I don't know if it was because I was looking at an age gap there, but I didn't really feel an age gap there. And Anthony Anderson, he looks younger than what he really is. And Viola Davis, she's been looking the same ever since I've seen her on the screen, but it just felt like it was going to be kind of weird. But it didn't. It worked. It really did work here. And Anthony Anderson, he was all right. You know, um, Nobody ever accused Anthony Anderson of being uh, a top tier top tier actor, but his role was pretty minimal. He was the husband. He was protecting his children and whatnot. I liked all that aspect of it. I liked the fact that they addressed the fact that he was, his job is to protect his family, his children, and he understood that his wife being the president, the most important thing, or at least the talk that him and his wife had when she took office. And when you get this in kind of a dialogue heavy scene where he explained, like, look, it was we talked about this. My job, if anything was to happen like this, my job was to protect you. And he was talking to his children, and I thought that was a cool little scene there. The Another cool little tidbit, and let me tell y'all something. This is how crazy it is. This is coming out on Prime Video, so a lot of people are gonna watch it on at home. But I was privileged enough to get a early screening in the theater. So when I left the theater and on the way home, it dawned on me that what's her name? Marcette Martin, the young actress who plays the daughter here. It dawned on me that Anthony Anderson and Marcette Martin played dad and daughter on Blackish. And it didn't, the whole time I'm watching the movie, it never clicked until I got home and well, on the way home, and I was going over in my head what I was going to talk about on the review. And I was like, wait, no wonder they had some good chemistry. They've been playing dad and daughter for years. At least they did when that show was running. And so of course they're gonna have some really good chemistry, and they did. They had some excellent chemistry there. Speaking of chemistry, the one who stole the show for me, if Viola Davis wasn't just a beast and just, she's a beast. You're not gonna outact her or outperform her. But a gentleman came bloody close, and that was Ramon Rodriguez, who plays the Secret Service agent assigned to her. I've seen him in a few things. I've seen him, the first time I ever saw him was in one of those Transformer movies where he plays this silly character, but all of the characters were silly in that movie. And just to be fair, and most recently, he's on that TV show, Will Trent. And I've watched a couple of episodes, and I thought that's a pretty decent show. And he's the lead character in that show. But here he plays side by side with Viola Davis, and man, he does a good job. I loved, not liked, I loved the chemistry between him and Viola Davis. Man, I really felt that character. He plays Manny Ruiz. Bruh, I mean, he could have been a star if they were gonna do a different type of film or go a different rate. Whereas the Secret Service agent was the hero here, I would have cheered him on. This this would have been cool to watch. He really did do a good job here, and I wish I wish he would do more on the big screen. Something, action wise, because he held the action sequences, the fight sequences really well as well. Anthony Starr, who we all may know as Homelander on The Boys, he plays the villain in this film, and it was. I'm kind of on the fence with him. He wasn't hot and he wasn't cold. He was just there. Now I will say you know, he wasn't Homelander here. You know, I didn't see any shades of Homelander in his performance. So that's a good indication that he is a really good actor, And so that was good to see. And he wasn't bad in it. I don't think he was given much to do with that character. He was kind of mustache twirling villain, comic book villain in certain scenes where he's unhinged and then he's super intelligent in another, and it's like pick a lane, pick a lane. Where are we going here? But I think it's the way that character was written. But either way, he did a good job. He just, I don't know, he didn't come off as a menacing threat in this situation that was a pretty big situation, and I just wanted more from the villain. And, the hero is only as good as the villain in films. If you have a weak villain, your hero can't shine. And that goes for comic book movies, these superhero films. If the villain is meh, you're not really going to be invested in the hero. So you need a villain that's a real threat, something that is going to make you ask the question, like, how is he going to get out of this? How is he going to defeat this guy? How is he going to get out of this situation? And that's what good villains do. This villain was kind of underwritten. We do get a little backstory, but it's at the very end of the movie, and it's not really much. It doesn't really explain his motivations. To be honest with you, I still don't know his motive. Well, I know his motivations is pretty cut and dry what his motivations was, but it should have been more than what they laid out in this film for him to go to these extreme measures. You know what I'm saying? The escape plan and everything else of his plan was poo. Now the plan to take over and hold everybody hostage and all that, well thought out, well executed. But it was the escape that was so silly, and it was the setup. It wasn't so much his plan; it was the setup by the writers here. It's like, oh, okay, he's just gonna walk out the back door. It's so it was frustrating at the end of the movie, but the action, I did like the action. This isn't a action-packed movie. I compared it to Die Hard in the beginning, but it's not Die Hard. It doesn't have that much action, but there is action in it. It is action throughout, sprinkled about, and it was good. To see Viola Davis go toe to toe and actually get in some fighting scenes, some shootouts, and hand-to-hand combat and everything, that was good. Sprinkled throughout the film, but it wasn't like edge of your seat action that the adrenaline was just constantly pumping through your veins watching it. It's not that. Nor was I really expecting that, because there are no quote unquote action stars in this movie. There aren't any jujitsu black belts in this film. So I wasn't expecting all that, and lo and behold, we didn't get it. My last little nugget here on this review is the visual effects. And lately, I don't know what it is, but I'm not picking on this movie. It's been a ton of films that I've seen with bigger budgets than this. And so there's no excuse why their visual effects were bad, but the visual effects here were kind of poop. There was a scene in the end of the movie that really took me out of the entire movie. I mean, it is maybe the second to last shot in this film where I was like, "Oh my god, that's a horrible shot." The green screen was just screaming at you. It was, it was so bad. Um, Now this isn't a sci-fi space opera, so it's not like it's super compact with visual effects, but it was just that one shot was like, oh man, they couldn't went outside and shot this. They had to do this on a green screen. It was so bad, so bad. Now it may look better on TV because this is made for TV technically, so maybe on the television it looks better, but to see it on the big screen, it was like, ooh, it was right there in your face. But aside from those little things, the movie is good. It is very watchable. It is fun. This is a fun movie. Exactly what you want out of these type of movies. It's nothing to sit back and think about life. Reevaluate how you live. Like, oh man, I've been doing things wrong. It's not one of those deep, thought provoking films. It's a true popcorn, sit down, have fun movie. And I truly did have some fun with it. G20, which is on Prime Video, gets a letter grade of a B minus. Yeah, it was good. The performances was good. There was no bad performances throughout this film. There are a couple of actors or a couple of characters that were in the movie just to be in the movie. You know what I'm saying? I didn't touch in on them, but it didn't make sense to touch in on them because me explaining it would take is longer than what screen time they got in this film. So it wouldn't have made sense to sit there and elaborate on them. But it was kind of wasted in a couple of characters. And the twist, this movie does have a twist at the end. And the twist you kind of saw coming fairly early on. So it's not, it's yeah, it didn't shock you. But like I said, that's not why you going to watch this movie. You were going to watch this movie to see Viola Davis kick some butt, and she definitely kicked some butt in this film. I would like to know, what did you think of G20? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Do you want to see Viola Davis in more action movies? I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Going back to The Woman King, where she was an animal in that movie. Uh, yeah, I would love to see her in some action movies. I mean, it don't have to be uh Commando, you know, but it would be nice to see her in some other properties as well. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for Viola Davis' new action thriller, G20, the movie review. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.